Florida Senate is calling for a constitutional convention. Are you in agreement that we should have a constitutional convention to have our Congress go through, that they would have to have a balanced federal budget? And I'm going to start with, this is a 1-minute question.
Was the issue just about the balanced budget?
That's my understanding, that they want to have a constitutional...
Would you support a con-con?
You know, I've got another question that goes along with that, so...
These are very interesting times. Of course, that's an ancient Chinese curse. We may live in interesting times, and certainly I think we are. I think in just the last year, has anybody ever seen, you know, the furor, the anger that we have seen in the American electorate? I mean, what the society has gone through with this health care bill, for one thing, to the point where people are seriously talking about a constitutional convention, which can be called by 3/4 of the states. I think that number would be 38. If we get to the point where people are so angry that the states are seriously considering a constitutional convention, I think that's democracy in action. I mean, things don't necessarily go along smoothly, and things are not going smoothly. We see we're kind of in a branch of the road at this point. We have to decide where the fate of our country is going to be. Are we going to end up looking like Western Europe? And trust me, I've lived there, I've traveled there. I don't think you want any part of that. Right.
So do you support a con-con?
This is that branch of the road where you have to decide what we're going to be in the future, what your kids are going to have, what your grandkids are going to have. And I think it's that important. So to answer your question more directly, yes, I would be in favor of a constitutional convention, especially if they talk about repealing that health care bill.
Yeah. But you don't know what they're going to talk about. You're opening
Wait a
the
minute.
door.
We'll talk that's part two. That's part two.
Okay.
Yeah. Give them a minute.
Can I have 3 or 4? I adamantly and fundamentally disagree. A con-con is the last thing that we need to do. If it happens, we need to peacefully walk down there and tear the building down, brick by brick, shingle by shingle, and make sure it doesn't happen. Because we do not need a new constitution. We just need to restore the one that we got.
That's right.
We were lucky to get the constitution we got the first time. If we do it one more time, we're not going to be that lucky.
No.
The emerging global agenda is behind all of this, behind the economic collapse, behind Greece, behind Iceland. We go into a con-con, they have control of it. We need to be, we the people, take our country back. It's our constitution. They need to abide by it. We need to enforce it.
Yes.
That's our job. That's what we need to do. It's not the politicians. It's we the people. So, yes, no con-con at all. And if we do it, please join me in tearing the bill peacefully down.
Every place I go, people talk about what's happening in Washington. They really are unconcerned about locally. When we talk about the system has broken in Washington. When the Speaker of the House gets up and bills passed and says, "This was the will of the people," and can say that with a straight face and with a smile, it worries me. I know this. We've got to create some vehicle to let some of this frustration out. The reality is, if that bill goes into effect, and that's the reason Bill McCullough filed a suit in Pensacola this week, it will break Florida. Florida has a constitutional amendment that says we have to have balance the budget. They already know that the impact of this new bill will send Medicaid up another 10 to 15%. In 1989, Medicaid, which was mandated by the feds, was 6% of the Florida budget. They said it'd never get any bigger than that. It's approaching 30%. It will be 40%. So now, rather than having 94 cents to deal with the problems of the state of Florida, we're going to have less than 60%. We've got to do something. And whether it's a constitutional convention or whatever we need to do, we've got to get back to the basics and say, give us our sovereignty. Let us run our states. And the state has got to look to the counties and say, the counties have got to say, let us run our counties. And then the cities have got to say, let us run our cities. If we'll get back to basic government, we'll be okay.
Well, isn't that in the Constitution?
I think the idea of having the federal government with a balanced budget is a good idea, but I think the idea of a constitutional convention is not the way to go. I think we already have a constitution in place and we need to fight for it. So I think a constitutional convention could open Pandora's box and a lot of different issues could be brought to the forefront. And so I think we need, the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution says all powers that are not established by the federal government are reserved to the states and its people. And I think we need to stand up to state representatives and say, send that message to Washington loud and clear.